Using everything I'd learned over the 5 years with my handbag company, did $500,000 in sales from 2006 to 2008 with this one thing.
Traditional detergents actually contains more than 25 toxic ingredients. Most people don't know this. That's actually harmful for the planet, your laundry, and the health.
Well, we say the future of work is no longer in the future. It just got accelerated.
We empower young leaders to take action on real-world problems.
I'm Richard Gerhart.
And I'm Elizabeth Gerhart. You've just heard some snippets of what's going to be on the show tonight.
So stay tuned. I'm Richard Gerhart.
And I'm Elizabeth Gerhart.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the show all about entrepreneurs, small businesses, and the intellectual property that makes them flourish. Tonight, we have as our special guest, Sarah Shaw, and she is a celebrity designer, CEO of Entrepreneurship, and heads the podcast, Get a Street Smart MBA.
And did you think that you knew how to do laundry? Well, you don't. There's a brand new product.
I definitely don't.
No, a brand new product that you're going to want as soon as you hear about it. I'm not telling you anymore. You got to listen to the presenters talk about it, Bernard Law and Angie Tran.
Laundry mystery. I can't wait.
And after that, Sam Caiucci has been on the show before with his gaming software for corporate, but he is doing just amazing things in the social space and in the corporate space. So you really want to hear this. This is the next generation of training. And after him, we have Michelle Joseph with SGAP Leaders. And she is doing amazing things with kids in STEM and STEAM. And she'll tell you all about that.
Yeah, I can hardly wait. So, but before we get to the really good stuff, let's tease our audience a little bit with some intellectual property stuff.
Okay, so every week we try to find something entertaining in the intellectual property field.
If that's even possible.
We know it's pretty dry. So I'm going to be looking at this. So this is a United States patent that was issued in 1993 to Thomas J. Frischman. So I'm assuming Thomas had children, because what this is a struggling barrier for children. So it's a barrier that goes between two kids and they sit on either side and it holds it in place.
So that's for your car, right? So
I think it's for everywhere. It shows them sitting on a bench.
So yeah, I guess today's equivalent is separate video cameras or video monitors in the back of the car, right? With headphones.
Well, they can still do this and hit each other. So the barrier's there. So quit touching me. Quit looking at me.
They can yell over the barrier though.
Yes, they can. So
they'll find a way. But
yes,
anyway,
so on to something a little more serious, but still very interesting, I think.
Something completely different. So we always like to talk about the importance of intellectual property on the show, since we are sponsored by an intellectual property law firm. And
would that be Gerhart Law?
That would be Gerhart Law. Shameless plug there. But today we're going to talk a little bit about Nintendo suing the White Cat project.
Since Sam does gaming, and this is in the gaming industry, we thought it'd fit right in.
Oh, that's right. We did think that. And Nintendo claims that 5 of their patents have been infringed in Japan. And so the legal battle started in 2016. And as a consequence, they've been fighting for a while. And Nintendo originally asked for 4.4 billion yen. And for those of you who don't have the conversion handy in your head, that works out to be $4.17 million.
No, 41.7.
That's exactly what I said, wasn't it?
No.
Okay. Well, she's right. It's $41.7 million. And however, because the lawsuit's taken so long, they increased the damages to about $47 million. And what's really interesting about the case is that they're actually fighting over a touchpad and a joystick controller. So when you think about patents for electronic consumer devices, these types of appliances are covered by a ton of patents. And so they're just fighting over a little small piece of the controller. And at least in Nintendo's opinion, the value of that is, close to well over $40 million, maybe $50 million. So the point is that patents can protect small pieces of technology. And so no matter how small the piece of technology is, if it has commercial value, it may be worth protecting.
Right. And you don't think about the gaming industry getting patents on a lot of stuff, but they actually do, hardware and software. And they're worth a lot of money. There's a lot of competition out there.
That's right. And so keep your inventions safe.
So now on to our guest. I'm so excited to hear what she has to say.
Yeah, Sarah Shaw. And as I mentioned before, she's a celebrity designer, and we really need to hear about your handbag stories, because that is absolutely fascinating. She specializes in product placement with celebrities, which, if you're an entrepreneur, oftentimes is one of the best ways to get recognition for your product. And if I can just take a little bit of a sidetrack here, Gerhardt Law had a client who engaged with a superstar, and they were able to increase their sales almost instantly. So it's a good business strategy. So Sarah, welcome to the show, and tell us your story and tell us about what you do.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you all today. So my career started way back in the late 1990s, 97, 98, and I launched a handbag company sort of out of the blue. I'd been working in film doing costumes for movies right out of college. And I was having dinner one night with the costume designer that I had worked with for many years. And she was complaining and whining that she was being forced by the studio to use Donna Karan clothes on one of her actors. And that's when my light bulb went off for me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. Why didn't I ever think of gifting celebrities or getting my products into movies, you know? And a lot of people have said to me, well, you had all these movie connections and you dressed all these stars and celebrities. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't have their phone number. Like, it all went through casting. So we just showed, you know, we booked the fitting, they showed up. I never talked to them, you know, personally. And so as soon as I went back to the office the next day, I decided to figure out how to contact celebrities, because I thought if Donna Karan's doing it, other people are going to start doing it right away. And I need to get on this bandwagon because nobody else was doing it yet. And this was probably 1999, maybe, or early 2000. But there was, you know, not everybody was online at that point. There was no contactanyscelebrity.com, which you can easily find celebrity contacts nowadays. So, you know, this was kind of, you know, 411 and figuring out, you know, which agents represented which actors and kind of going the old school route. But I started to make some connections pretty quickly and sending product to celebrities. And actually Liv Tyler, who was pretty big star back then from Dawson's Creek and different shows. And she actually showed up in InStyle magazine holding one of the bags that I had sent to her. And that was really the first celebrity placement that I ever had. And it was amazing. I started thinking, how can I make money from this? So making copies of the magazine, sending it out to potential stores that I wanted to get into. But you got to keep in mind, stores mostly still weren't online at that point. They didn't even have an email address. So it was printing it, packaging it, mailing it to the store, calling, you know. So it was very old school. And I've kind of been through.
That seems like so far, so long ago. Yeah.
But it was only about 21 years ago. So, I mean, which does seem long, but it's been amazing, like, over the years to see the evolvement of that for me, right? I think, you know, when I work with clients now, I'm like, ooh, push a button and everybody gets to know what you want to say in 1 second, right?
So do you actually get to meet any of the stars that are using the handbags then?
No, I never did. You know, and it was, for me, it was really just a vehicle to get more sales. Right. And as we started to get more celebrities product and they started showing up in magazines, or magazines wanted to just write about it because it was fun and interesting at that point, but just because no one was doing it, right? It was all brand new and a new way to market. And then I started reaching out to films, and that's when things really changed. I got in touch with Sony and asked if they were making any movies that needed bags. And they were like, oh, well, there's this film called Legally Blonde. right? We didn't know what it was. And it's a bunch of college girls, so maybe they could use bags. And they connected me to the costume designer, and she's like, sure, bring them over. So I loaded up my car and just drove a ton of stuff over there. They picked a bunch of bags. I don't know, I left 30 or 40 bags. So it was a pretty big investment because I made my bags in Los Angeles at the time. So just left all this stuff and had no idea what was going to happen. And then they ended up using one of my bags in the film, and it actually ended up being the publicity shot for the movie. So that was total luck.
Well,
And
yeah. So I want to ask you, so you had bags that you did, but now you're placing all sorts of products, right?
these days I do, yep. So I use basically what I learned building my own brands. I had my handbag company, and then after 9/11, my investors pulled out, and I actually had to close the next year. But then I patented. I've owned a patent for a while. Now it's
Wow.
expired. I
Congrats.
patented a closet organizer for handbags in 2003, and then sold that for many years, licensed it, got it to celebrities, got it in magazines, and was very successful with this one product in 12 colors. And in the first 2 years, using everything I'd learned over the 5 years with my handbag company, did $500,000 in sales from 2006 to 2008 with this one thing. And
Wow.
So Sarah, can I ask you a question? First of all, is there like a range, a financial range for getting a product placement like this? And then is there a way to measure the ROI on celebrity endorsements?
okay, so let's swing back to the word endorsement first, because endorsement indicates that you're actually paying for something, right? You're actually doing a money exchange. Personally, I've never paid to ever have a celebrity use or wear my product or be in any movie. I just had to give the stuff away. So you're investing the cost of your product. These days, a lot of celebrities will just take the gift for free. A lot of times they'll just post it now with Instagram, right? It's so easy to say, oh, hey, look at this cute thing I just got, right? You know, I just was gifted this. I love it. Sarah Jessica Parker, for example, is really good at posting things on her Instagram that she gets. And she just does that for free. There's no charge associated. But lately, I've been working with some of my clients to actually do some endorsement deals. And the way that we've been trying to work it out, because they are small brands and can't afford to pay, you know, 50 or 250,000 to the celebrity to talk about the product, is offering them a percentage of sales.
I know handbags are big, especially in movies for women, but what other kind of consumer products are good for product placements? If I were an entrepreneur with a consumer product company, what would be my best bet for getting it placed somewhere?
Well, you really want to, let's say you wanted to get on a TV show, because it's really hard to figure out what films are being shot or what's upcoming with movies unless you can get in really tight with the product placement department on films. But often they're asking for money up front, right? You have to pay. But if you kind of circumvent all of that, let's say you wanted to get some clothes, for example, to a TV show, and you think, oh, you know, this character would look great in this pink top. And so you could actually look for the costume designer's name in the end credits and see what their name is, and then call the studio, Warner Brothers or Universal or whoever's producing it, and ask for the production office for that department. Or if you had candles, or let's say it was a show like Cheers, right, with a bar, they're in a bar all the time. Maybe you make a liquor and you want to get it on the shelf. Maybe it's a show that takes place in a salon and you make a skincare product and they need product on the shelves. So a lot of times you can just donate that to the
And they'll
show.
just take it and use it. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I mean, the client that I'm thinking of, they hired Kim Kardashian, and I think they paid $10,000 for a single tweet with her holding the product. But
cheap.
it sent the sales through the roof, and the product it was a lighted cell phone case, and it ended up in, Verizon stores and Apple stores. And that was the tweet that launched 1,000 cell phone cases.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
so anyway, so it's really cool to hear that they might do it for free. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for a percentage of the sales, right, they kind of at that point put their money where their mouth is, right? I think I can sell this, so sure, I'll take 15 or 20% of your sales for the next 6 months or 12 months or whatever the contract deal is. You know, also if you're selling wholesale, right, retail on your site, wholesale to stores, that can also lead to huge sales. Either getting in the media can alert and be attractive to store buyers, right? You know, maybe you know, you're looking to get in with a distributor and they see that you've had some celebrity placements, because if you can also put a picture, right, a little framed photo of a celebrity with your product at point of purchase, that totally drives sales. I used to send out, you know, framed images of celebrities with my products all the time.
Wow. So Kenya, I'm sure you have something to say about this.
Well, it's interesting because I was thinking about the example you gave about Sarah Jessica Parker and the Manolo Blahnik placement in Sex and the City all of those years. Like I can imagine that she sold a lot of shoes for them based on that kind of placement. So I'm not sure if Richard asked this early on, but like what are some good product categories that do super well in a movie or in a TV show that generate a good return typically?
Anything waist up. Just because, you know, it's like one of the costume designers I used to work with, he used to say, if it looks good on my 13-inch, that's what's going to sell. Because TV, if you notice, is mostly waist up. So tops, jewelry, hair, accessories, glasses.
Any
on your
potential
physical...
for patents and trademarks in there someplace?
Well, you know, hey, I got my patented product to tons of celebrities. So I never got it on a TV show, but I did get it in magazines too. You know, and this was a closet organizer. So I kind of want to swing back to that. You were asking, you know, obviously nobody was taking it to the park with their kid, right? My closet organizer, it was in their closet, but magazines were still interested in the fact that I could get it to celebrities. And even if they put it in their closet and they couldn't show a photo of it, it didn't matter, you know. So if you make candles or soaps or, you know, bath and body products, and you can get it to a celebrity and actually get them to request it again, that's sort of the secret to getting magazines to want to write about it, because then it becomes a story and kind of a trend. Or if you get it to the same thing to 4 or 5 different celebrities, and a lot of big brands do this, you know, all the couture lines, they'll send the same, you know, $25,000 handbag to 10 celebrities and then show that they're all, you know, wearing it on their arm, and it becomes an instant trend. So you can create that same phenomenon with your own products, especially if it's something that's behind the scenes, right? Like your laundry sheets, right? Nobody's going to be walking down the street carrying it. But at the same time, every person does laundry, and there's a lot of celebrities. I don't know if it's an eco product or anything, but there's a lot of celebrities that, you know, would be interested in something clever and kitschy, you know, at the same time.
Anything from the waist up.
I never noticed that, but I'm sure you're right. I remember seeing a Coke can on the counter, but I also remember.
But see, I always thought they were paying. Coke was paying.
I
They
thought
have
so.
that.
They definitely are.
Yeah. Okay.
But I also
100%.
remember, do you remember back, and I'm aging myself, when E.T. came out and Drew Barrymore was the cute little girl in there, and now she has her own show, but there was a big, so they lure the alien using Reese's Pieces, and they first wanted to use M&Ms, and M&Ms said no. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember reading about it too, recently, actually, maybe a few years ago.
Right. And M&M thought they didn't want to be associated with an alien. They thought that would turn people off, and Reese's Pieces went through the roof after that, right?
Exactly. Well, you know, it's like once I got my bag, when Legally Blonde came out and we could say, hey, here's our bag, and also all the publicity had come out, you know, we probably made $250,000 off of those photos.
If it's an historical thing, do you think fashion's changed too much so people wouldn't like look at the company again? Or do you think like if a movie from 20 years ago, your product was in there, somebody might revisit your product line?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I still use a lot of those images in Facebook advertising and other promotions that I do. And it's, you know, it's like, hey, I did it. You know, I mean, I had bags on Friends and Will and Grace and all these other TV shows that were super popular at that time as well. And I just don't talk about those as much as you know, making a bag for Julia Roberts for Ocean's 11 seems, you know, I don't know, more fun to me.
So you've had a lot of different businesses. It sounds like at least a couple.
6.
Can you tell us a little bit what it's like to be an entrepreneur, and sort of the great moments and maybe the more difficult moments? A lot of our audience, I think, is asking themselves, well, I have an idea for a product, or I have an idea for a service. I'd like to do this. What's it really like?
Whew, it can be really scary and thrilling. I mean, for me, I think I'm a cautious entrepreneur in that I really like to test the waters to see if something's working before I just dive right in. I started my first business, aging myself, way back in 1994, making clothes for movies. And when I started that first business, I had no idea about being an entrepreneur. I come from a long generation of entrepreneurs. I think I'm 4th or 5th generation that we can go back. Everybody in my family is an entrepreneur, but I was definitely never going to be one. I was going to work in film and die in film and everything. So, but when I started my first company, I was very cautious, went out to a couple of costume designers and people and said, hey, we could make these clothes for you for a lot less money than you're paying, and it was a very gentle start. And I really like to research and know my customer. And I think knowing your customer is one of the most important things about being an entrepreneur. But I think taking risks and being willing to kind of jump off the bridge at times when you need to is also a super important factor for being an entrepreneur, and also knowing when to give up on something. So, I've had tons of failures in my life and tons of successes, and it's been this fun up and down roller coaster. And I think you have to have a lot of backbone and be able to take a lot of rejection to be an entrepreneur, and also learn from those rejections. Somebody once said to me that the biggest learning moment can be when somebody tells you what they don't like about what you're doing. And that, instead of immediately defending yourself, is just to be open and listen to that criticism, because a lot of times there's a little bit of truth in it, that if you don't, put the wall down and shove them away at that point, that you can actually learn a lot. And they may even give you some tidbit that could really help you propel and grow your business in a way that you just could never think about for yourself.
So Kenyon, do you have a question?
Yeah, Sarah, you had made a good point about you've had some challenges and some failures. What are some signs that it's not a good business idea or a good venture?
That you're not making any money. Sometimes you are making a lot of money, but you're not making any profit. And so one of the things I highly recommend is that you examine especially if you have a hard goods, right? Service business is different. I've been in both. I've had hard goods, and now I have a service business, which has very obviously little overhead because I don't retain anything, I don't have an inventory. But when you do have a physical product, what I learned was a hard lesson was that I wasn't pricing things correctly. And sometimes you underprice things because you think it will sell better at a lower price. But in the end, you're the only one who's being hurt by cutting those margins. So I think you have to put yourself first in saying, what do I want to make from this, or what do I need to make to survive? And then looking at, is it a viable product that you have, at the price that you have to sell it for in order to be profitable.
Right. I mean, I think that's really great advice. Start with the end in mind. If you're doing a lifestyle business where your goal is really just to provide yourself with a living, decide how much money you want to make and then work backwards from that. Right.
Exactly.
Right. Well, and I really like the advice that income does not equal profit.
So true.
We can appreciate that on several levels.
It's funny.
But yeah, I mean, that's true. It's profitability is important. So
right, like I find that if you interviewed 10 different product-based entrepreneurs and said, what do you want to earn this year? Like, what's your goal? They'll all give you big numbers. But then if you say, oh, you want to do $500,000 in sales, what will that put in your pocket this year as a salary? Not one of them can tell you.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And that's an important piece.
Well, because it's
Yeah.
always a juggling thing, right? So to get to those sales, you need the marketing. And then how much do you spend on marketing? And then how much do you get back? And the ROI on marketing a lot of times is so hard to calculate. So
Mhm.
it's always a juggle, and it is hard to pin those numbers down, but you probably need to do the best you can, right?
Yeah, there's a few mathematical things that I've made up over the years,
Uh-huh.
because for me the bottom line is you have to live and eat and support your family or whatever you're earning the money for, right? So, if you need to make 50,000 as a salary, then it's easy to start to figure out based on your margins how many stores you need to sell to, or how many internet sales you need, or whatever those hard goals can be, and then you can work backwards and break it down into how you'll achieve those. And I just think that going kind of back to your question before, one of the most important things about being an entrepreneur, I think, is breaking things down into small bite-sized morsels so that you can be successful every week. Maybe not every day, but then on Friday you can say, whoa, I had these 2 or 3 successes, or even if it was just one, something that will keep you going. Because it can get really lonely being an entrepreneur. It can be really frustrating. You can feel defeated, you can feel elated. It's such a roller coaster that I think the most important thing to keep yourself going is to have these little teeny milestones that actually make up your goal, right? So if you have your goal for the year, breaking it down by month and then week and then days gives you something to do, so that every Monday you don't wake up wondering what you're supposed to do. You have this plan of, I need 3 stores this week, or oh, I need money, I better hold a sample sale online, or, whatever it is. I remember waking up a lot on Fridays when I had my handbag company and like, oh my God, I have all these bills due. We better have a sample sale tomorrow, and sell some stuff. I got to raise some cash.
I think, I think I'm beginning to understand why you built that into a 7-figure business.
And so I think just keeping everything realistic is really the key to, in my mind, to the longevity of having a business. Because if you set these big goals, like when I brought investors on, they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh gosh, we're going to be selling to Bloomingdale's next week. And I was like, how the heck is that going to happen? My partners were like, you're going to be doing this. And I was like, how? I don't even understand the process of it. And so I think when you set these lofty goals, I think that's great to have, these dream stores up here, right? But, department stores these days aren't necessarily the best way to go, or a big box might not be what you can afford right now. Maybe you need to sell to 500 small stores to have that reassurance, because if you sell to the big boys, they don't sell it, it's coming home. And if you don't have anywhere to sell it, then you can go bankrupt overnight. So I just really encourage people to chunk it down really tight, build your brand slow and steady. And I think that's the kind of the ticket to longevity.
Well, that's great advice. Another piece of it is that today business is so different than it was even 15 years ago. There's so many opportunities for automation in the consumer business. There's drop shipping, and there's people who can take care of those kinds of things for you. And so I think it's worth some time making sure that you're educated on what the most current technologies are. And some of them may be impractical if you're a smaller business, but being on the edge of automation, I think is a good place to be if you're an entrepreneur, because if it's done right, it saves a lot of time and a lot of money. Elizabeth's brother-in-law owns a hot sauce business, right? And so his goal is to be able to run the whole business off of his cell phone. So, this is how things have changed. And, he's pretty much there. So he just, wherever he wants to go, he just does the whole thing off of his cell phone. And so there's lots of opportunities for efficiency.
Definitely.
And there's also a lot of noise because of social media now. There's so many, so much noise out there, so many things to look at. I look at my Instagram feeds and my LinkedIn feeds, and I think celebrity endorsements are clearly one of the best way to cut above the noise, because people pay attention to celebrities. And if you can get your product noticed, if you want to get your product noticed, I think celebrity is one of the best ways to do it.
I agree.
Say that, I see a lot of cars now in terms of product placement where I didn't notice them as much before. I mean, that seems to be becoming a trend and a thing, especially when in TV shows and in movies. So I didn't know if you could speak to that a little bit. I know your whole game is pretty much fashion, but like that's got to be a pretty big price point in terms of like getting a car inserted in a movie.
Yeah, I mean, all those big brand things, like when you see them open up a MacBook, or a can of Coke or Pepsi, or driving a specific car, right? Like that TV show Suits had tons of car placements, right, all the time. And you see big actors like Matthew McConaughey doing car ads, and Olympic skiers now are doing some car ads, that they're getting paid millions for that.
Wow.
Wow.
It must work. Personally, I wouldn't
it
buy
totally
a car
works.
just because an Olympic star was in the commercial, but somebody must think it does, and it must work. Otherwise, they
Definitely.
wouldn't be doing it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think though, honestly, BMW has built their reputation on that kind of thing, honestly, because like if you see the cool car, it's a BMW in so many different places, and the
Hey,
fast car and everything.
You drive.
It worked on me.
It worked on you.
I drive
guess.
a little black Beamer, but I do think that, and Mercedes, like they've built their reputation that way too. You drive up to some country estate, the little lady gets out of the back of the Mercedes, right? So I do think it works. Not everybody has millions, but.
So we've had an absolutely fascinating discussion with Sarah Shaw. And where can people reach you, Sarah?
Oh, you can find me on my website at sarahshawconsulting.com, and on Facebook at Sarah Shaw Consulting, and Instagram at Sarah Shaw Consulting.
That sounds great. And you also do a podcast for entrepreneurs, don't you?
I do, called Get a Street Smart MBA, because that's what I feel I have. I do not have a business degree. I've learned it all on the main streets of the world. And it's fun. I interview a lot of high-end celebrities, Marcus Lemonis, Damon John, Barbara Corcoran, and fashion designers like Trina Turk and Rebecca Minkoff and other fun people.
Well, it sounds
Excellent.
great. And where can people find that podcast?
Either on my website or on iTunes.
That's great.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back after this message. You're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt, and our special guest this evening, Sarah Shaw. And we'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt and our special guest, Sarah Shaw. And coming up next, we have Kenya Gibson, our media maven from iHeartRadio. Kenya, who is on Power Move this week?
Well, we're going to talk about Elon Musk and the power of the tweet. So I'm not sure if everybody caught this, but his one tweet sent stocks soaring. He actually tweeted out that Tesla had bought 1.5 billion. It's not even dollars, it's cryptocurrency. And Tesla actually plans to accept Bitcoin now as a payment form for its cars. They're the first car company to ever do this. And he's all over the news for this one tweet.
Why am I not surprised?
That's pretty amazing. I think that, and I could be totally wrong, but I think that's the first time I've heard that a major corporation has decided to accept Bitcoin as payment for their goods, which I think gives the whole cryptocurrency a whole new level of credibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually think of people on the dark net and, sometimes, slightly crazy people involved in that. But that's really interesting.
Well, I think he is slightly crazy.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But this is no small thing either, because those cars are super expensive. Richard and I drove one a few years ago and it was 70 grand then. I don't know
Right.
what they sell for now.
Right.
So you're talking about $70,000 worth of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes up and down. It fluctuates a lot. So
Right. Well,
It's
our son has
interesting.
been involved in trading Bitcoin
Yeah.
recently. He called us and
Yeah.
he's like, and it's very complicated. right? I mean, it's not like money, this is $20, right? You've got to have programs and all sorts of other stuff to track it and understand it. So,
Right.
And I think moves like this make it a little bit more mainstream and understandable for those who don't understand cryptocurrency, because I certainly don't, right? But when I heard this, I was like, oh, it just seemed a little bit more palatable now that I know you could actually use it to buy things like a car.
right.
Right. And I don't think it would have caught on if we hadn't left the gold standard years ago with cash. Right. Because nothing's based on the gold standard anymore.
The
So
gold standard.
yeah, you don't know what that is?
Well, yeah, but that's like,
Yeah, but if we were still based on the gold standard, you couldn't start another currency, I don't think.
well, that's a question way beyond my pay grade.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's, I guess cryptocurrency is here to stay. It's not government controlled or regulated, which is also an interesting factor. So we'll see how long it takes for for governments to get involved, and it's a global phenomena. So we'll see, just exactly how that works.
Maybe we'll get to use it to buy things on Mars. Who knows?
But here's the bad part. Like, didn't some guy lose hundreds of thousands of dollars because he forgot his password
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
of cryptocurrency?
So that's
So you better have a good
you better
password,
write it
Paul.
down in a couple
That's
of
pretty
places.
important.
Otherwise, you can't get your money.
So anyway, well, hey, bringing Bitcoin into the mainstream, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that sounds great. And so while we're talking about mainstream, I think it's time to talk a little bit about Fireside.
Okay. So for those of you who haven't heard my explanation before, Fireside is the first video directory of small business. And right now I'm doing video interviews of small businesses, putting them on my YouTube channel and website and growing it. And when I get to a certain point, I'm going to start marketing it, which I haven't, but people have been marketing their own videos anyway. And of course, to scale, eventually I won't be doing all the interviews. I'll be just soliciting videos from people to put on the site. But to put them on the YouTube site, I need the original. And YouTube is really a powerful search engine right now, owned by Google, as you know. So anyway, I want to go back to something that Sarah said. So I was talking to somebody last week and they were like, I'm not sure you're doing your YouTube thumbnails right. These custom thumbnails you're doing for your videos. You might want to consider doing them this way. And I thought about it and I asked a couple of people and I kind of feel like I agree with them. So, I really took it to heart and some other things he said too. And I was like, you really do need an outside look at what you're doing. And you really do, as Sarah said, need to be receptive, because if he's thinking that, there are probably other people thinking it too.
Yeah, I
Right.
personally think your thumbnails, your fingernails, everything is fine. But if you want to change them, then that's up to you.
Okay.
Well, I know.
So thank you. But now moving on.
Okay.
So I may be changing the way I do laundry. I think I will be after this. I know my daughter will be because she has to go to a laundromat. So Bernard Law and Angie Tran have Kind Laundry, and there are so many good things about this I can't even begin to say. So please tell us about your company.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, thank you for having us on the show. We're super happy to be here. So our company, Kind Laundry, our mission is to eliminate single-use plastic laundry detergent jugs. So for those that don't know the plastic crisis that we're facing right now, so in the US alone, we actually dump approximately 1 billion tons of plastic into the ocean every single year. So to put that into perspective, if you look at a worldwide scale, that is approximately 1 garbage truckload of plastic that gets dumped every single minute into the ocean. Wow. So for those that are like, okay, you know what, I don't really care about the environment, it doesn't really affect me. Well, it actually does affect everyone. Because every single piece of plastics that ever been produced ever in history, it stays in this world forever. It doesn't decompose, it doesn't go anywhere. And they turn into something called microplastic. So what microplastic is just plastic that got that stayed in the ocean, and they turn into these little microbeads that you don't even see a lot of times. And then they get into the food that you drink, or sorry, the food you eat, the water that you drink, sometimes even in the air that you breathe. So people are actually consuming these plastic into their system on a daily basis, and you don't even know it. Now, for us being in the laundry category, so if you look at your home, whether that's your kitchen, your bathroom, you probably own a eco-friendly product already, or you can maybe think of an eco-friendly alternative. But for some reason, when you look at your laundry room, it seems like that category hasn't really changed much in the past century. You know, everybody's still using that same old plastic detergent jug, and it seems like there's really no alternative. And as a laundry category, you know, if you look at this from a CPG perspective, it's really a dinosaur of a category that hasn't evolved. So Kind Laundry is here to offer consumers an eco-friendly alternative and a detergent that's much safer to use. And then it's also lighter weight to handle as well. But I guess I'll turn it over to my partner, Angie, here to talk a little bit more about what Kind Laundry is.
Yeah, so traditional detergents actually contains more than 25 toxic ingredients. Most people don't know this. That's actually harmful for the planet, your laundry, and the health. And they're actually made up of 90% water, and the rest is surfactants. And they're actually unnecessary surfactants. So that's kind of like UV brighteners, dyes, and such that gives you the illusion that's cleaning your clothes better, but it's actually not. Most companies put them into their formulation for marketing purposes. So for instance, like green and blue subconsciously makes people think the color is going to clean your clothes better, or if they add more suds or foam into the detergent and you mix it with water and it's a bit more bubbly, they think it's cleaning your clothes better, but it's all just for marketing purposes. So for us, we only have 4 simple ingredients and we take out all the unnecessary surfactants. And we have the same, if not stronger, cleaning power than conventional detergents as well. Another thing too is that most detergents that you see in the big box retailers, if you look at the back of the label, they don't have the ingredients at the back, and that's because it's not mandatory. Whereas we're very transparent of what we put into our formulation.
You haven't explained like what it is. So it's a sheet, right?
Correct. Yes. So it's pretty much, it looks like a dryer sheet, but it's for the washing machine, and it's biodegradable and dissolvable. So once the sheet hits the water, it just biodegrades and it dissolves in the water. So you can actually put them into your washing machine, front loader, side loader, or you can just put them in a bucket with water if you hand wash as well. So it's very easy to use.
So, wow, that's amazing. And I'm amazed to hear that the laundry detergent companies are faking us out, making us think our clothes are cleaner than they really are. And that just makes me mad.
But I can really see people that
are our clothes really dirtier than we think they are?
I can see people using this in laundromats, or like my daughter, she has to haul her laundry down 2 or 3 flights of stairs. This is such a huge saver, and less room in her apartment, like people that live in lofts, whatever. This is brilliant. I think this is very innovative product.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. And it's nice to see something that's boiled down to just the essential ingredients. The strip dissolves in the laundry. No muss, no fuss. And I think
no mussing, no fussing.
No mussing, no fussing. And you get the results that you want. So thank you for bringing this to the market.
Where are you selling these?
Yeah, so we currently sell them on our website, kindlaundry.com, but we're working with a lot of retailers right now as well. We're about to get onto Amazon. We're on Etsy as well. So we're all over the internet, and we're just slowly making our way around brick and mortar stores. But going back to your point, yeah, we take a lot of inspiration from, I guess, a lot of beauty brands out there as well. Because again, same with the beauty category, your skin is your biggest organ in your body, right? And so a lot of things that you put on your body, it actually gets absorbed into your body. So with laundry detergent, it's the same thing. More than half of your body is covered in clothes. And when you sweat, you're actually bringing a lot of those toxic ingredients that's stuck in your clothes, and it actually brings it into your body. So that's where the inspiration really came from, is to offer consumers a healthier alternative. And of course, most of our customers are they are looking for an eco-friendly alternative. There's a lot of eco brands out there. Obviously, we're not going to name names, but they greenwash a lot of products as well that people don't really talk about. But for us, we're completely 100%, zero waste, and our ingredients are super clean.
I have so many questions. First of all, is it patented? I stole Richard's question.
I wasn't going to
it's
ask.
still in the
but-
process. We're in the process of trademarking. It does take a while. We're in like month 6. So we launched August 2020, so 6 months ago, and we're also in the process of getting patent as well.
Okay,
Because
that's awesome.
every single time we launched, actually when we launched in August, we completely sold out. We thought we had 6 months worth of inventory, but we wiped out inventory. It was a good thing and a bad thing because we were getting so many reorders as well. So like retailers and customers had to wait 3 months for us to get our next batch. But then during that time, we were doing surveys with our customers to kind of ask them for their feedback and see what else they want to see in detergents. Overall, it was good feedback, but they wanted like a scented version because the one we launched, our first SKU had no scent. And we were adding like a secret ingredient in our next batch as well. So we're constantly innovating.
And where
So we're
do
in
you
the process of patenting once we kind of figure it out. Yeah.
I see. And where do you produce and where do you ship from?
So we have a couple products in our store. The detergent sheet specifically is produced in China. So we work very closely with a manufacturer and their chemists. So we actually worked, before this whole process, we interviewed 30 different manufacturers so that the one we used or we partnered with is the one that has the best team of chemists and ingredients. So they're from China. And also our upsell products like our vegan steam remover bars are made in Canada.
Cool.
And we
do you
ship from
guys ship
Canada.
so only ship from Canada. You don't have a US distributor or a warehouse or anything
No,
yet?
not yet.
I was just gonna make a comment about, looks like you're saving people money too, because I see it's like $20 for a box and you get, it looks like 60 loads of laundry out of it, where versus if in the bottle in the store, I think you only get an average of 32 loads out of an average bottle that costs $20. So it's like you're almost cutting it in half, the cost of doing laundry.
I would think too, if once it gets into the larger chains, the shipping costs would be much lower for this product as opposed to the liquid products, right?
That's a good point.
And less shelf space too, right? So,
Well, they probably don't oxidize as easily. Yeah. So it lasts long. So the other thing is that those plastic bottles are made from hydrocarbons, which come from oil. So you're really saving the planet in a couple of ways there. I think this is just a fabulous product. And so do you have studies of how clean it actually gets your clothes? And I guess what you're saying too is that there isn't like a lot of residual detergent in the clothes like there is in with a normal soap, right?
Yeah, correct. That's correct. And we're actually, we know for sure it does work because we tested it many times and we have thousands of customers that have given us feedback how it's, especially mommies, that's our biggest demographic, where poopies and puke from their babies is very tough to get rid of.
Mhm.
And they would actually send us pictures of before and afters in videos. So if you go on our Instagram, we actually collect all the
so you
videos to
have
show
few
like
pictures on your
the
website. That's
no, not on the website,
very
but on
powerful
Instagram.
marketing.
Yeah, they'll talk about it. But especially like with social media, people are very transparent, honest about their experience with the product. So that's what we're kind of proud of, our community that we built. And like Sarah touched upon, celebrities endorsing your product. So for us, we work a lot with micro influencers. So just real people with very engaged communities where we would gift our product or send our product out to for free. We never pay for it. And then have them experience it and give us their honest feedback and share that on Instagram as well.
Great.
So what are your future plans then for the product going forward?
That's a very good question. So with traditional laundry detergent, it actually breaks down your fabric. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when you bring something out of the wash, your clothes feel a little harder. That's why you need the fabric softener to balance everything out. But for us, because our ingredients are all plant-derived ingredients, and one of the main one is derived from example like coconut oil. So naturally, your clothes do come out softer already. So there's not a need for a fabric softener. And another thing about fabric softener, while we're on that topic, there's also a whole list of toxic ingredients that goes on top of what's already, in your liquid detergent. So that's why we try to stay away from softener when it's actually not even needed. And we just want to be transparent with our customers as well. It's like, this is the one product that you need, and that's all you need, right? So the future for us is that we see ourselves as a company that can really break through and disrupt this category. Again, that's been so old, and there hasn't been any innovation. And for us being in the digital age now, as actually Sarah mentioned before, now we can work with influencers online. Now there's social media channels for us to tap into, so we can really make this a more of a lifestyle brand and something fun that people can relate to and introduce it to their younger kids. Like we have young mothers that's introducing laundry now to their kids because it's so easy, it's so lightweight for them to use.
In terms of to piggyback off of Richard, in terms of keeping up with the expansion, like you said you ran out of product. What are your plans from a productivity standpoint, like once this really gets big and goes mainstream, to be able to keep up with consumer demand?
Mhm.
So our manufacturer is quite big. They're ready for that volume because that's their specialty. So when we placed the order, we placed what we thought is for 6 months, but our third order that's coming in is container load. So it's in the thousands, like over 50,000 units to hopefully support us in the next 6 months. And then again, with physical products, we need to make sure that we have enough cash flow. That's a huge thing for us. So forecasting based on all the channels that we're on, omni-channel, like whether it's Facebook ads, D2C, which is selling our product on the website, or through distributors and retailers, which we're in conversation actively every single day. So we can forecast better. Hopefully we can continue to place more orders, but I think we can support that inventory.
If I may interrupt, you do have a special code for Passage to Profit listeners. So you can, I guess you get a discount if you say what P2P or PTP 15, right? So any of our listeners, our audience who would like to try the product at a discount can mention the product code PTP 15. And I just wanted to make sure that we got that in there. So
Yeah.
so I'm going to use the code.
Okay. Well, so you're going to start doing laundry now?
Of course.
So have you guys thought about QVC? I don't know if this is a great QVC product. Now, we do have a friend that gets people on QVC. Sarah knows her. Sarah works with her too. Have you thought about going on QVC with this?
Yeah, definitely. We have actually just got a few inquiries about us, having more PR exposure. So very recently, we've actually won one of the best cleaning product of 2021 for a major publication in the US. We can't say who it is right now, but it will be released in March. So with that accolade, I think we're gonna gain a lot more exposure with our product. So yeah, I think we're going to be leveraging that, and then in the coming year, we're going to be doing a lot more, like PR outreach.
But QVC would be a perfect place because it's so visual, and you can kind of demonstrate and show how the product works. And that's exactly what our ad looks like on Facebook. It's kind of like QVC style too. So
excellent.
Yeah.
So what about Shark Tank?
It's funny that you actually brought that up because a producer contacted us, I think, a few weeks ago. They were very interested, but unfortunately, we couldn't come on the show because we're Canadians. So we have to be American citizens.
So you have to find the Canadian Shark Tank. I see.
Well,
yeah, it's called Dragon's Den.
That's okay. There's lots of investors in Canada, I'm sure.
I just had a quick question. If a Procter and Gamble came along and wanted to purchase or partner with you, how would you feel about that?
That is such a great question. It's like, yeah, Angie and I always have like these scenarios in our head. It's like, hey, what happens when that day comes? And I don't know. I think we have a different perspective. But for me, it'll be very hard for me to, sell the company to the company that actually created all these problems in the first place, right? To me, we started this company with a big why, and that big why is to, as cliche as it sounds, but like do better for this planet, and just offer a better option for people. So we just can't see ourselves, selling ourselves out like that, at least for now.
But we also recognize that these CPG companies have been around for so long that they have a lot of expertise in research and even distribution. They have a lot of space and shelves. So if you truly want to make an impact, like around the world globally, they have that power and that reach. So it's kind of like, that's a very good question, but we think about it all the time. We don't know yet. Yeah.
Well,
That sounds like an interesting debate, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I applaud you guys, and I do think the big companies are going to be interested, and it's going to be a tough decision for you. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but remember, listeners, it is PTP 15, Kind Laundry, revolutionary, I think. So everybody's going to be doing laundry in a new way soon.
So does PTP stand for Passage to Profit?
No.
I figured that out all by myself. But why 15? That's the other. Have you been on
15%, right?
Oh, is that what the discount is?
Yes.
Oh,
Correct. Yeah.
you guys are pretty smart.
I do
for
most
figuring
of the
that.
shopping for our family.
She also does most of the thinking for our family.
So, anyway, unfortunately, we have to come to a close with this segment, but this is an exciting new product that I think is going to be homes all over the world before long. So you are listening to Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart on Passage to Profit, the Inventor Show on WOR 710, the voice of New York. We will be right back after this message.
Welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart.
And if you missed it from what just happened, go to our podcast or our YouTube channel, Passage to Profit Show.
Absolutely. And where can they find our YouTube channel and podcast?
Passage to Profit Show. So on YouTube and on iHeart App Store or Podcast Store. So.
Yeah, I didn't know. So I'm glad you answered that question for me. So coming up next, we have Sam Caiucci from One Huddle. And Sam is a repeat offender. He's been on Passage to Profit before. And so he trains people using sophisticated gaming software, which is a really unique approach. And so, Sam, why don't you tell us what you've been up to since you were on Passage to Profit last time?
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's wild. Just about a year ago, we were lucky enough to close our Series A financing. One Huddle is we're a tech startup, but we turn workforce training that is traditionally not the most exciting stuff for people to sit through, go through, be forced through, depending on your perspective. We take all that stuff and we have a platform where you can turn it into mobile games. And pre-COVID, we were ramping up to raise our Series A, and we closed our Series A financing at the beginning of 2020, and really set us up to be able to forge forward. The process was, again, even pre-COVID, the challenges around keeping employees not just skilled up, but connected is one that has only gotten more challenging. So to say the last year hasn't been an even more wild ride for us as we've tried to adapt and adjust to make our product help the workforce, is definitely true.
Well, I would think now that because of the virtual workforce, your product would be even more valuable now because it allows people to work independently, right?
Sure. I think there's, for us, there's two sides to the coin. On one hand, we work, about a third of our customers are in retail, hospitality, restaurants. We made a purposeful choice to impact workers that are on the edges of our workforce that don't traditionally get access to job training. And when COVID happened, that group needed us more than ever, but their brands couldn't necessarily pay at the moment. So on one hand, our product, we saw a 13-fold increase in gameplay in Q3 over Q3 of 2019. So major surge in usage as folks who are either employed or unemployed or using us to find their next opportunity or get skilled up in the meantime. But, it's good that we did the raise in all transparency because it allows us to sort of continue to try to do good things and grow the business at a time when, as employees get cut, HR teams get cut. So, Zoom is an outlier, kind of the video products are an outlier in the surge of tech. A lot of HR tools today are in trouble because of the fact that HR teams maybe don't have money to allocate to job training.
Wow.
I love that term, skilled up. And I think one thing that you're bringing to the workplace is, as you know, you can't just sit on the skills that you have because everything's always changing, and you have to constantly self-educate or educate through your company just to keep up with what's happening now. I mean, nobody was on Zoom. Well, we had remote workers and we were on Zoom. A handful of companies were. Now everybody's on Zoom. So everybody had to skill up to learn Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we talk about the future of work. That's probably a buzzword term that we've all heard a lot. Well, we say the future of work is no longer in the future. It just got accelerated a ton. And companies, just like we think of building roads and bridges and infrastructure for cities, I think we learned that our human infrastructure and use of tech to keep workers ready failed. Like, we were not as ready as we should have been. I mean, just take what's been happening in schools as an example. And most workforce tech emerged out of education. So if education is failing, the workforce is doing worse from a HR technology than academia is.
Right. Wow.
Right.
Well, so what are some of your pivots here, and what are you doing to try to, continue to penetrate the markets that you want to penetrate?
Sure. I think that probably there's a lot of things that got a lot of startups and that you all have talked to have been trying to do to be creative and keep going and testing a lot of different things and iterating. But one of the things I'm probably most proud of is the work we've done on the social impact side of our business. We've made it a point that as most people get left behind, One Huddle is not going to be a part of that unfortunate spillover effect. We're gonna lean in. We're not gonna lean back. So I'm probably most proud of the work we've done with organizations. And we have Michelle Joseph here today from SCAP. We're really proud of the work we've done in, for example, the city of Newark, who's used our platform to keep out of work workers work ready. The work we've done with SCAP and a few other great organizations, including Saving Jane, the New Jersey Coalition Against Human Trafficking. We've used our app in ways to keep organizations connected to the most important social issues for their people and their workforce. January was Human Trafficking Awareness Month. We work with a large number of hotels, restaurants, sports stadiums, who, again, the work that organizations are doing around trafficking and education around forced labor, online grooming, a lot of these very important issues that aren't always showing up in an HR training manual. We've been able to partner and work with these organizations to help them on their initiatives on the ground with our game platform, but also level up the organizations we work with who maybe don't have access to content around these really important areas.
Right. And I think one of the true genius pieces of what you're doing is everybody loves to play games and loves to play games on their phone and loves to play video games. And so you've taken what could be really boring and turned it into a game. And so there's instant reward, you get to the next level, whatever. So it's much more appealing for people to have to learn some of these difficult topics, quite honestly.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, there's a lot of proof that serious games are really powerful vehicles to share information and change perspectives. So I would say that some of our best games that we've released over the last few months, either in partnerships or on our own, have been, for February, we launched over 40 games on Black History Month, on prominent figures, on implicit bias training, on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, on how to be an anti-racist. And the cool thing for us is, the companies we work with, they can't say no to us. We just drop the games in their library and their employees play them. So, it's sort of like I've stopped asking for permission. So I've been really proud of just some of the ways that our product's been able to touch on topics about work that are more than just job training at work.
That's great. So how eager are companies who've had to make workforce reductions because of COVID to maintain contact with the employees who are not currently employed, with the hope that once things turn around, they'll be able to bring them back? Can your software be used as a tool for sort of keeping in touch with the employees who aren't currently on payroll?
Totally. Now there are some legal challenges here, so we're stepping into a little bit of a minefield on this one, but I think this is part of the reason that the law has been behind technology in so many ways. And the Fair Labor Standard Act and wage and hour rules by state are still a little bit stuck in yesterday. One, for example, some of these rules were written before the internet was created. So to say that there are rules that restrict employees from using their mobile device outside of work or outside of employment, it's a major area that is makes some companies nervous. But I'll say this, there are a heck of a lot of companies, a lot of ones we work with, who say things like, we're going to lean in. We know that the rules might be a bit dated. We might have a little bit of exposure, but the right thing to do is to keep our people, A, connected, and B, work ready, because the vaccine is coming, and more folks are going to be vaccinated here in the months ahead. And we have never in the history of work had to re-onboard so many people at the same moment. It's never been done.
Right.
And we're going to need as many people and tech around it. So they've been using it to keep people together, not just on job training, but we just talked about some, society and culture related games we have, but just keeping people together and knowing that they're not out there on their own. That's
great. Sarah, did you have any comments?
So tell me a little bit more about how the social aspect works, because I find, I just work for myself, so it's just always me, myself, and I, and a few outside employees. But so I hear from a lot of people who have lost their jobs, or just stuff I read on the internet and see on social media, that people feel super isolated and don't have that connection, that coffee, or water cooler situation, right? That people have who go to an office. I've never been to an office in my life, but I hear that it's very common. So how does your company, like what you were just talking about, the social aspects, how does that help with that?
Yeah, so great question. Before COVID, Gallup did a future of work study. It was probably the most comprehensive look at employee engagement, which is, again, another term we throw around but don't often define. And they found that only 15% of workers wake up every day and are, quote, excited to go to work before COVID. The one thing that we found with our platform and why we made it a game is we said, what other technology to one, people already use, because talk about usage numbers are wild, even across generations, where as you play and fail, you're okay with it. Like nobody ever reads a manual before they play a game. You just play and you struggle and you fail and you go back to the next level and the monster gets you and you start over again. You're okay with that. I mean, I want workers on my team that are resilient like that. And then third, community. And so I think we talk a lot about community and competition, and people log into One Huddle not to necessarily learn. I log in to maybe, beat Richard today on a game. And
I bet you could.
And it's in that process. It's in that process that you discover new things, you try new stuff, you meet new people. Here's a social example. We work with Vineyard Vines Retail. They have 100 stores across the country. Employees who haven't seen each other see each other on the leaderboard and start to compete on silly stuff like, what the gift card promotion is this month. So that connection is really important, we feel, today, as we're all disconnected.
Right. So Kenya, do you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I like what you're doing because I'm one of those people that forgets to take all these trainings that come out. So I think if it was in a form of a game, I do. I get a message from my manager often. You got to take this, and I'm like, it's always a fire drill. But I think what's cool what you're doing, and I think there's definitely room. You had talked about like the stuff that you're doing for Black History Month. We actually just a lot of companies now have diversity inclusion initiatives that they're trying to teach to employees. And I think it's hard to teach diversity and inclusion because I think a lot of people don't know what that means. And how do you teach it in a fun way, right? We actually just hired our first diversity and inclusion VP for the company. So iHeart has a huge initiative there. And I'm just curious to see how you're helping other companies be able to tell that story and train their employees accordingly.
Yeah, it's a great question, Kenya. The number of chief equity officers that have emerged in the last several months has been great to see. And it's probably been our biggest interest area. And they're using us in two ways. One, DEI can't just be an event. It's not just a one-day workshop and we all feel great about checking the box. It's got to be 52 weeks a year. And one of the things about our platform that we say is like the game never ends. So with One Huddle, companies are using us as the post seminar. So we're still saying, bring in the outside group, do the workshop, do the seminar, do the tough stuff. But then the most important principles can be thread through 52 weeks a year, year round. So that's one way. The second is educating C-level executives better, because this all starts at the top. And it's also really sad to see numbers when you look at DEI participation on traditional learning, where C-level executives don't show up to the meetings, but they expect their employees to. So we feel our tool is also being used as an accountability measure, because if I don't see my CEO on the leaderboard on that series of trainings or games, that exposes some stuff. And we're seeing, I think, those are two ways the platform is being used, because I think that it's got to be looked at as more than just check a box.
Wow.
So One Huddle is the number one and then the word huddle.
Right.
So that's the website, One Huddle.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. And so we'll be back right after this.
Well, welcome back, listeners. We have had incredible conversations today, new products, how to get your product noticed on TV. So if you missed any of it, go to our YouTube channel, Passage to Profit Show, or listen to our podcast on iHeart, Passage to Profit, The Inventor Show. And you will be amazed at what people are doing. We have people from Canada. We have people from the US. It's been a lot of fun. But now we something.
We had Elon Musk.
Well, we didn't have Elon. We had to talk about Elon.
It's just a minor difference there.
Yeah, right. But I am so excited about our next presenter because she has been on the show before. She is doing amazing work with the next generation of leaders all over the world. So I'm not going to say too much about it. I'm going to let her explain what she does. But Michelle Joseph with SGAP Leaders. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. It's so good to be back. I missed you guys. You are awesome. You're awesome.
Thank you.
First of all, SGAP Leaders, which stands for the Student Global Ambassador Program, is a leadership program for underserved students, usually ages 13 to 18. We empower young leaders to take action on real-world problems using STEM to solve sustainability, social justice, as well as environmental challenges. We've been very fortunate to impact, over the short time that we've been around, roughly 3,500 students in New York, New Jersey, Maryland, DC, and Virginia.
Wow.
And I think the biggest challenge for us has been, like everybody else, pivoting once COVID hit. Since we worked with the schools, when the schools closed, we had to figure out what the next steps were. So it has been an uphill battle, but we figured out through our partnerships. We figured out through ways in which we could approach our schools from a virtual platform. And we figured out by putting together kits and delivering it directly to our students. and then still engaging them. So it's been quite a ride, but we've been very fortunate and opened up the school opportunities to actually different schools outside of the United States, as well as those in our current footprint.
Right. So you brought a couple of students on the show on Passage to Profit a couple of years ago when you came on. They were so impressive, the things these kids are doing. So what are some of the things your kids now are doing?
Great question. So the three students who came last time were Zula, Brendan, and Ben. They were 11th and 12th graders at the time. Now they're in actually undergraduate school. And Zula is one of our board members. She came back and is one of our board members. And Ben, who actually has been working with us, he's at the University of Texas. He went and presented to South by Southwest his app that was really awesome. So he's excited and has actually wrote us back and said without the opportunities through SGAP, he would not have seen where he was going or his interest in starting and developing his own business.
That's
Excellent.
great. That is so exciting.
And now what you're doing with Sam, who we just heard from, the way I understand it from going online is that you guys are using Sam's product to try to train children to recognize predators online. Is that pretty much it?
It is. As I mentioned, what we use as far as students to get them engaged is and talk about social justice issues. And when we actually surveyed our students, we found that human trafficking was a concern for them. So we brokered an opportunity, having met Sam on Passage to Profit way back in 2019. We kept in touch, and we brokered an opportunity with our another partner, Saving Jane, and New Jersey Coalition Against Human Trafficking. And we saw the opportunity because Sam's product and platform really meets the needs for our community, specifically our schools. So the gaming fits in with Gen Z, which is our student body.
Right.
The actual failing forward, which aligns with our design thinking methodology. So the kids actually get excited and they are engaged and they perform much better as a tool to reinforce what they've already learned. So we're excited about the opportunity to educate thousands of kids about the concerns about grooming online and human trafficking.
So Sam, can you say a few words about your involvement with the program?
Yeah, I'd probably say that the work that Michelle does with SGAP leaders and some of their partners is so needed today, given the fact that with young people being remote and sometimes being disconnected even from their primary source of education, programs like this are so critical for rounding out young people. And also, I think it's so important for this level of involvement because it shows for us on the other side of the market, so many large brands and companies, it inspires them to do more as they see organizations like SGAP and their young people that are so actively involved in social justice issues.
That's great. Kenya?
Yeah, Michelle, I had a question for you. I mean, because we're all pretty much virtual now and we're quarantining, and how are you overcoming those challenges of keeping the kids that are in your programs engaged and still being able to provide those type of resources?
Excellent question. So one of the things we found that was really helpful for us, Kenya, is partnering with organizations that have relationships. So obviously we mentioned working with One Huddle and Saving Jane, but we also have another partner called the Global Education Motivators. What we try to do is, since they have a cohort of schools that they work with, and we also do the same, we try to reach one by providing options for the students to be able to use a variety of tools, some which don't necessarily necessitate that they have to have internet access so that they could participate. Two, finding ways where the kids could do, I would say, positive reinforcement in such a way that it is competitive but fun at the same time. So engaging them, empowering them, listening to their voices. And one of our programs that really has been phenomenal is our Think Design for Social Impact. And what we did is it's working with design thinking as a methodology, and the students choose the topic. Our students chose systemic racism as a topic to actually address and how we could become the anti-racist. So what was interesting is we created these kits, delivered them to the students directly to their homes, and then the kids came up with solutions with Play-Doh and Legos of how they would solve their problem in their own communities.
Wow.
So
Excellent.
getting their voices, engaging them, having them to work with gamification to reinforce, and then ultimately tally that into an opportunity for them to, what are you going to do in your community, and challenge them.
Excellent. I know Sarah has something to say here.
I love what you're doing, Michelle. It's awesome.
Thank you.
So from what I understand, you went from just local, a few different states, to going to moving to online, obviously because of COVID restrictions. Are you going to be expanding now that you've kind of honed in on this and mastered the technology? Are you going to go out to other school districts or states across the country? Because I think it sounds like you're building, incredible minds and training kids to think forwardly, and I just love that.
Absolutely, you're on target with what our next strategy is. Because we're finding we could now cross-pollinate from schools, obviously in the DC metropolitan area, New York, New Jersey, why not just expand that? So one of the things that we've done is we developed a methodology and a curriculum and course design around climate change, which affects everybody all over. So what's nice is we're piloting that climate change curriculum this fall, and we hope to roll it out since there's a mandate in New Jersey, K through 12, for climate change curriculum. We've also reached out to some of our contacts which focus on career readiness as well as college readiness on the West Coast and the Washington State, Seattle area, and they're also very much interested in what we're doing. So scaling is critical for us.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So that was just absolutely fantastic, Michelle. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the segment. And thank you very much for joining us again on Passage to Profit.
And that is sgapleaders.org.
Correct.
Right, and giving us an update for sgapleaders.org. So we'll be right back with a wrap up right after this message. Well, welcome back, everybody. Passage to Profit. It's been a fantastic show. I feel like I've learned so much, and our guests have been so fantastic.
Right. So our guest was Sarah Shaw, and she has Sarah Shaw Consulting. That's SARAHSHAW consulting.com. If you want to get a product placement,
She
on
is the one.
TV.
She's the one to go to.
right.
And she knows how to do it even for free. So listen carefully to her
I think
advice.
I don't, well.
What? Not anymore? Well, you should at least talk to her and get some advice.
I don't know if everything's free. Nothing's free these days.
No, well, I liked her approach, at least the way she started out. So.
Yes. So anyway, and then we had Kenya Gibson with a P at iHeartMedia.com, talking about Elon Musk and Bitcoin
and cryptocurrency. And I just want to put in a plug for iHeart here. We've been using their digital media services now for at least a couple of years. They've made a great difference. They've got a great team. And if you want to be out there, go to iHeart and contact Kenya. So.
And I talked a little bit about Fireside, the first video directory for small business.
And where can people find Fireside?
Fireside.directory or Fireside Directory on YouTube.
Or they can Google Elizabeth Gerhardt.
Yes, if you find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, you'll see it. Yeah. So, and then we had we had so much innovation here today. So a really great innovative product for laundry of all things, like who would have thought, right? Bernard Law and Angie Tran with kindlaundry.com, just little sheets like dryer sheets, except they go in your washer. So you get rid of the jug and all the.
Yeah. So they're convenient and they're environmentally healthy. And I do agree with Bernard that the plastic never goes away. So we have a duty to eliminate the plastic as much as we can, because we're drinking, it's in our drinking water. It shows up in our food everywhere.
Right. And plastic comes from oil. So they dig it up out of the ground, they put it through a chemical process, make it different than it was in nature, and then stick it in our water, and then it goes into little balls and we drink it.
So go guys, go.
But they also have a discount code if you want to buy their laundry sheets, PTP15.
Right. And the P stands for passage, and the T stands for two, and the P stands for profit, and 15% is the discount. So remember that, PTP15.
And then we had another extremely innovative company, Sam Caiucci. He's been on the show before. It's One Huddle, the number one, and then the word huddle, HUDDLE.co. So there's no M on it. So onehuddle.co. And it's gaming for teaching, and corporations are using it. Everybody's using it.
Yeah, and it's really a fantastic thing. And he's doing socially good things with the product, not just training people, but improving social awareness and moving our society forward in the directions that it needs to go. So thank you very much, Sam, for that.
And then on the social front, on creating leaders, Michelle Joseph with sgapleaders.org. What she's doing with young people and helping them navigate through the world to leadership positions is just amazing. So you can find her at sgapleaders.org.
She's touched over 3,000 young lives, and I think that is a professional time well spent. So thank you for doing that, Michelle. And so before we sign off here, I'd like to ask Sarah, do you have any comments for our audience before we leave?
Sure. I just want to say, follow your dreams, and that anything that you think is possible for yourself, that makes you want to hop out of bed and not be those 15% of the people that Sam mentioned who don't want to go to work or aren't thrilled to get out of bed in the morning. Find something that does make you want to hop out of bed, and I think you'll be really successful with it.
That's great. Well, I appreciate that. Kenya, any thoughts?
Yes, I actually wrote down a term that Michelle used, and she said something about design thinking with the methodology. And I think that everyone on this conversation and this show today has that kind of thinking, right? From Sarah being really one of the originators of influence marketing and product placement, and Kind Laundry with, just how you were able to design a new product that's saving, the environment and saving people money and giving them a healthier, batch of laundry, right? And then Sam, with your product, One Huddle, or your platform rather, where you're coming up with solution-based educational tools to really keep companies on the cutting edge. I think everyone is an example of that today, of that problem-solving theme. And I just want to say it was a pleasure being part of this conversation today.
And always a pleasure to have you, Kenya. Thanks so much for joining us. You're listening to Passage to Profit, but before we go, I'd like to thank Noah Fleischman, our producer, Alicia Morrissey, who is our program coordinator, and Angela Wolf from Angela Wolf Video, who edits our shows before they're put onto YouTube. And don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as
subscribe to our YouTube channel.
There you go. So this is Richard and Elizabeth Gerhardt signing off for Passage to Profit on iHeartRadio, WOR 710, the voice of New York.